Before we begin, a quick disclaimer. Tonight's story is fiction. Names, places, and events are entirely made up for entertainment. This bedtime story includes themes of disappearance, deception, and violence. Nothing here is instructional. Please listen with care. Now, settle in. Let your room be quiet. Let your breathing slow. And let the night do what it does best. Soften the edges of the day. They say that when a family goes missing, the house keeps breathing for a while. The refrigerator hums. The clock keeps ticking. A porch light switches on at dusk like it always has. And for a moment, the world pretends that nothing has changed. But the silence is different. It isn't the calm silence of a home at rest. It's the hollow silence of a story interrupted. And in the town of Briar Glen, where streets curled neatly around little parks and every mailbox looked freshly painted, one home became the kind of quiet that draws attention. A quiet with teeth. Part 1. The Missing Days. The House That Didn't Wake Up. On a Sunday morning in late fall, a woman named Diane Mercer stood in her robe at the kitchen window, holding a mug of coffee that had cooled without her noticing. Across the street sat the Rowan house. Curtains closed, porch light off, no toys in the yard. That wasn't unusual on its own. But Diane had lived across from the Rowans for 3 years. She knew their rhythms. She knew that Milo, 6 years old, always ran out first. Bright sneakers, loud energy, like the day was something he could physically chase. She knew that Sophie, 3, usually followed later, smaller and slower, a soft shadow in a pink jacket. And she knew Elena, Milo and Sophie's mother, always appeared last, hair hurriedly tied up, expression tired in a way that looked permanent. Noah, the father, typically left early for work. Quiet wave, careful driver, the kind of man who didn't take up much space. Normal. In Briar Glen, normal is a kind of currency. It's what people trade in when they don't want to think too hard. So when normal disappeared, the town felt it like a sudden dip in temperature. Diane noticed first because she noticed everything. No stroller, no children's voices, no Noah backing out at the usual time on Monday. By Tuesday, she told herself they must be visiting family. By Wednesday, her stomach didn't accept that answer anymore. On Thursday, she called the non-emergency line and said, in a voice that tried to sound casual, I don't want to overreact, but I haven't seen the Rowans in days. The dispatcher asked if she'd tried contacting them. Diane admitted she had. Texts left on read, calls straight to voicemail. Someone will check it out, the dispatcher said, and the wheels of a missing person case, slow, heavy, reluctant, began to turn. Detective Reyes and the Way Truth Moves. Detective Adrian Reyes arrived at the Rowan home just before sunset. He parked beneath a streetlight that was already flickering on, and he sat for a moment with his hands on the steering wheel, watching the house as if he could learn something from stillness alone. Detectives learn to look for small things. A porch light that isn't on when it should be. A curtain that's been moved. The angle of a trash bin at the curb. The absence of a dog barking at a stranger's car. Small things are how stories begin. Reyes was in his late 30s, with tired eyes and the steady posture of someone who learned long ago that panic doesn't solve anything. He knocked. No answer. He tried again, a little harder. Still nothing. He circled the house. The yard was tidy. Too tidy. Kids leave evidence of life everywhere. Fingerprints on glass. Abandoned toys. a ball under the porch, chalk scribbles on the driveway. The Rowan yard had none of that. Reyes checked the side gate. It was latched. He looked through a window. The living room was dim, furniture in place, no obvious signs of a struggle. People expect missing person cases to look like chaos. Often they don't. Often they look like someone hit pause. Reyes returned to the front door and tried the handle. Locked. He requested a welfare check authorization. A supervisor approved quickly, because when children are involved, the clock matters. A uniformed officer arrived with a key from a lockbox the Rowans kept for emergencies. The door opened with a soft click, and the smell inside, cleaner, faintly floral, hit Reyes first. Not the smell of a home lived in, more like the smell of a home prepared, as if someone had tried to erase the fact that life happened there. In the kitchen, the sink was empty, counters wiped, food still in the fridge. On the table, 4 placemats neatly aligned, like a meal planned and quietly cancelled. Backpacks were gone, shoes were gone. Noah's jacket wasn't on the hook. Elena's car wasn't in the driveway. No obvious violence, no broken glass, no overturned furniture, just absence. And absence is the kind of thing you can't fingerprint. Upstairs, the children's room was made, stuffed animals lined up like they were waiting for instructions. In the master bedroom, the bed was made tightly enough to bounce a coin. On the nightstand sat a small object, Elena's wedding ring. Not in a dish, not tucked away, placed on the wood as if it had been removed and left behind deliberately. Reyes didn't touch it. He photographed it. Then he stepped back and exhaled slowly. This wasn't just a family taking off. This was something else, something planned, something that wanted to be misunderstood. Day 1, building the clock. Reyes returned to the station and wrote the first line of every missing family case. Last known, confirmed sighting. The phrase sounds clinical, but it's a heartbeat behind a locked door. He started with routine. School attendance. Milo last seen Friday afternoon. Daycare sign out. Sophie last signed out Friday at 4:12 p.m. Noah's office badge. Last used Friday at 6:03 p.m. A neighbor's driveway camera. Noah's car returned at 6:47 p.m. Then, nothing. No Saturday sightings, no Sunday. Reyes called the school secretary who knew Milo by name. He called the daycare teacher who still had Sophie's spare sweater in the cubby. He listened to their voices tighten as the same realization reached them. This wasn't a missed pickup. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was absence with intention. Reyes called Noah's phone. Voicemail. He called Eleanor's phone. Voicemail. 2 phones quiet at the same time is never comforting. He requested pings. He requested emergency records. He requested the sort of information that in an ideal world would be used only for the exact reason it existed. To find someone before time steals them away. He called search and rescue. He called the missing child coordinator. He opened the case file and watched it expand like a storm cloud. Day 2. The first search. Saturday morning brought volunteers to the high school parking lot. Bright vests, coffee cups, clipboards. Parents held their own children a little closer. Strangers signed their names like names could control what the day might reveal. Reyes stood with the incident commander, mapping grids and assigning zones. Searches move like slow waves. They start close to the last known location and ripple outward. Parks, drainage ditches, creeks, construction sites, vacant lots, and all the while, people called out into the trees. Soft at first, then louder. then softer again when hope began to feel fragile. Milo, Sophie. The names drifted into the woods and returned empty. By late afternoon, a thin rain began to fall, the kind that makes everything quieter. Quiet in a search is the worst sound. That night, Reyes drove past the Rowan house again. The porch light was still off. He imagined the refrigerator hum behind the door, the quiet clock ticking, and he felt the strange sensation that the house was waiting for someone who would never come back. Day 3. Following invisible threads. On day 3, Reyes did what modern investigations always do. He asked the invisible world, phones, cards, and habits, where the missing had gone. Financial records, Noah's card, no activity since Friday. Elena's card, no activity since Friday. No gas, no groceries, no motel charges. Reyes pulled ATM footage in town. Nothing. That absence didn't feel like luck. It felt careful. He pulled neighborhood doorbell cameras, garage cameras, a convenience store camera near the end of the street. 2 hours of ordinary motion. Cars passing, leaves blowing, a cat crossing the road. Then, just after midnight, a vehicle rolled slowly past. Headlights dimmed. Not off, just reduced. Reyes paused the frame. Elena's car. The car stopped briefly, just long enough to suggest a pause, an adjustment, then continued. No second vehicle behind it. No frantic speed. Just a quiet departure. It didn't fit the easiest stories people liked. It fit planning. And planning is where the truth usually lives. Day 4. The people who know the most say the least. Reyes interviewed neighbors. Most said the same thing. They seemed fine. Quiet family. Normal. Normal again. He knocked on Diane Mercer's door. Diane held her mug like it was a shield. "I don't want to be dramatic," she said, "but Elena, she looked different lately." "Different how?" Reyes asked. Diane hesitated. "Like she was somewhere else," she said, "even when she was right there." Diane described seeing Elena on the driveway some nights, standing still, staring down the street as if she was waiting for someone, or waiting for herself to decide something. "She wasn't mean," Diane added quickly. "Just empty." Reyes wrote it down. Empty. He spoke to Noah's co-worker, Jonah. Jonah said Noah had been distracted, not scared, not frantic, just distracted. He joked about needing sleep, Jonah said, and he said Elena was going through something. He didn't say more than that. Reyes asked if Noah ever mentioned leaving. Jonah shook his head. "If Noah was leaving," he said, "he'd have told me. He tells me when he's going to the dentist." A man who tells you about the dentist doesn't vanish without a word. Day 5. Hollow Creek. On day 5, the break came from a park ranger. Elena's car had been found near Hollow Creek Trail. Parked carefully, doors locked, like someone wanted it to look like a hike had started there. Inside was a diaper bag, empty. In the trunk, a folded stroller, clean, as if it hadn't touched dirt in days. Clean objects in dirty places are a kind of lie. Reyes stood by the car and looked at the tree line. Hollow Creek was popular. Families walked it, joggers ran it. A place like that is chosen for 2 reasons. Either because something happened there, or because someone wanted people to look there. He assigned teams, dogs, drones, volunteers. They searched the trail, checked the creek bank, looked beneath roots, searched the shallow places where small things get caught. On day 6, a volunteer found a small pink hair tie near the water. Sophie's daycare teacher confirmed she wore one like it often. A tiny piece of life separated from its story. Reyes held it in a gloved hand and felt the case tilt, not toward clarity, toward dread. Day 7, the cameras and the crowd. By day 7, the town demanded answers the police didn't have. Reporters gathered under umbrellas. Cameras pointed like eyes that didn't blink. The chief held a press conference. "We are doing everything we can," he said. "We are following all leads. We ask the public to remain vigilant." Behind the cameras, people whispered theories as if guessing could protect them. Kidnapping, custody dispute, a secret life, a breakdown. Reyes returned to his desk and stared at the timeline again. He wrote 2 possibilities. 1, they're being held somewhere. 2, someone wants us to believe they're being held. He circled the second one because the evidence kept pointing there. Days 8 through 14, the long week. The second week was a slow drowning. Tips poured in. Fear disguised as certainty. A family at a diner an hour away. A scream near an abandoned barn. Elena's car near the lake. A man with a scar at a gas station. Reyes followed each lead with the weary patience of someone who knew most tips were the mind trying to force order onto chaos. Diner footage, wrong family. Barn search, teenagers, nothing more. Lake sighting, similar car, wrong plate. But between the false leads, small facts began to gather. A pharmacy clerk remembered Elena buying a first aid kit on Friday evening. Cash, a gas station cashier, remembered a woman like Elena purchasing fuel late that night. Cash, a hardware store employee, remembered her too. Gloves, heavy-duty bags, a flashlight. Cash. Reyes pulled the store footage. Elena's face was clear. She looked calm, focused, not frantic, not afraid, like someone checking items off a list. Reyes felt something inside him tighten. He still didn't have Noah. He still didn't have Milo and Sophie. But he could feel the shape of intention growing in the case file. He interviewed Elena's college friend, Kara. Kara's voice trembled when she spoke. "She hated it," Kara whispered, immediately ashamed of the words. "Hated what?" Reyes asked gently. Kara looked down at her hands. "The routine," she said. "The endlessness. She'd call me late at night and talk like she was underwater." Reyes asked if Elena ever talked about leaving. Kara nodded, barely. "Not leaving them," she said quickly. "Not like that. Just leaving, running away, starting over." Reyes wrote it down. Starting over. Words can be seeds. Sometimes they grow into something terrible. Day 15. The return. On day 15, the call came in at 3:17 a.m. A woman had been found near the highway, barefoot and shaking, half collapsed on the shoulder as cars whispered past. She was bleeding. She was bruised. She was alive. Her hair was tangled. Her hands scraped raw as if she'd crawled through brush and gravel and desperation. When paramedics asked her name, she whispered, "Elena," and then she began to cry. News reached Reyes before sunrise. He drove to the hospital with the familiar detective's feeling, the one that says, "This will not end the way you want it to." Elena was in a private room, police posted outside. Doctors moved quietly, trying not to frighten her. When Reyes entered, Elena was sitting upright, wrapped in a hospital blanket that looked too white against the mess of her. Her eyes were swollen, her lips were split. She looked like a woman who had survived something. When she saw Reyes, she flinched, just a little, then forced her gaze upward. Reyes spoke softly. "Elena, I'm Detective Reyes. You're safe. I'm going to ask you some questions. All right? Only when you're ready." Elena's hands trembled in her lap. "They're gone," she whispered. Reyes kept his voice calm, gentle. "Who's gone?" Elena's breath hitched. "Noah, Milo, Sophie." Her eyes filled. I tried to keep them safe." Reyes watched her carefully. He'd seen grief. He'd seen fear. He'd seen performances. Sometimes they look identical. "Tell me what happened," Reyes said. Elena swallowed hard. We went for a hike, Hollow Creek. Noah wanted to talk. We'd been fighting." Reyes nodded slowly. "And then?" Her gaze drifted, unfocused, like she was watching a memory. "A man," she said. "A man in the woods. He had a knife." Reyes felt something in his chest tighten. "A stranger?" he asked. Elena nodded rapidly. "He took us off the trail. He said if we screamed, he'd hurt the kids." Reyes leaned forward slightly. "What did he look like?" Elena hesitated. "Tall, dark jacket, gloves." Blurry details, not impossible, but vague enough to be convenient. "What happened to Noah?" Reyes asked. Elena squeezed her eyes shut. "He tried to fight him," she whispered, "and the man hit him. Noah fell. He didn't get up." Reyes waited. "And the kids?" he asked gently. Elena began to sob. He took them and told me if I followed, he'd kill me too." Reyes let the silence hold. Then he asked the next question. "How did you escape?" Elena's breathing was ragged. "He kept me tied up. Somewhere. A cabin. I don't know where. I don't know. I just ran when he fell asleep." Reyes nodded, as if the story fit neatly into a box. But inside, he was already listing problems. No clear restraint marks. No evidence at Hollow Creek. No witnesses. No phone. Reyes thanked her and told her to rest. As he left, he glanced back. Elena pulled the blanket up to her chin like a child. For a moment, she looked very small, very human, very believable. Part 2. The Truth Comes Close. The story that didn't match the world. Reyes returned to Hollow Creek with Eleanor's story in his pocket. His team searched again, but the forest offered nothing. No disturbed ground consistent with a struggle involving 4 people. No drag marks. No blood. No torn fabric. The dogs didn't pick up a stranger's scent. They didn't even pick up Noah's clearly. It was as if the family had not fought there at all. Reyes checked Eleanor's injuries with the physician. Bruises, consistent with blunt impact. Scrapes, consistent with moving through brush. But again, no clear signs of prolonged binding. Not proof of deception, but a thread. Reyes requested highway camera data from the night the Rowans vanished. Hours of footage, hundreds of cars, a flood of normal. Then, around 12:43 a.m., Elena's car appeared heading east. Alone. The angle didn't clearly show the back seat, but there was no visible movement. No silhouettes, no second adult. Not definitive, but enough to make Reyes's instincts speak louder. He obtained gas station footage near the route. A woman stepped out and pumped gas. Eleanor, cash, hood up, eyes avoiding the camera. Reyes watched it twice, then a third time. Then he said quietly, "You're not running from someone. You're running from being found." Interrogation 1. The soft room. 3 days after Elena's return. Once she was medically cleared for a longer conversation, Reyes brought her into an interview room designed to feel less like punishment. Warm light, tissues, water, a chair that didn't look like steel. Elena sat with her hands folded tightly in her lap. Reyes didn't rush. He started with safe questions. How are you sleeping? Do you need a break? Is there anyone you want to call? He built rapport like you build a bridge, slowly, carefully, knowing the weight it might need to carry. Then he asked her to tell the story again, start to finish. Elena described Hollow Creek again. This time she added, the stranger had a scar. He whistled sometimes. The cabin smelled like smoke and pine. The story became more vivid with each telling. Reyes asked, what time did you get to Hollow Creek? Elena paused. Late morning, she said. What did you do before that? Elena swallowed. We had breakfast, she said, at home. Reyes watched her face. If they'd been home, someone might have seen them. A camera might have caught them. A phone might have pinged. But there was nothing. He asked what Noah wore. A navy jacket, she said quickly. The kids? Milo had a red hoodie. Sophie had her pink coat. Reyes wrote it down. Then he said something gentle. You're doing great. I know this is hard. People relax when they believe they're being believed. And when they relax, they slip. Reyes asked about her phone. I lost it, Elena whispered. Noah's phone? I don't know. Reyes allowed silence to stretch, just long enough to feel uncomfortable. Then, Eleanor, did Noah ever talk about leaving? Eleanor snapped her head up. No, she said, too fast, then softer. No, we were fine. But her mouth tightened, a flicker of resentment. Reyes didn't call it out. He just filed it away. Resentment is quiet motive. Sometimes it grows claws. The break. The shoe. On day 19, a fisherman called from Lake Harrow. He'd found something caught in reeds. A child's sneaker with a dinosaur on the side. Milo's sneaker. Reyes drove out himself. Lake Harrow was wide and quiet. The water dark beneath a grey sky. Divers searched again. The water kept its secrets. But the location mattered. It was far from Hollow Creek. And it was near the highway route Elena's car traveled the night she left town. Reyes stood on the shore and felt the case tighten. This wasn't a stranger in the woods. This was a route, a plan. Interrogation 2. The fact on the table. Reyes returned with the shoe. He didn't bring anger. He didn't bring accusation. He brought one fact and let it sit between them. He placed the photo on the table. Eleanor stared. Her breath caught, small, sharp. We found this, Reyes said softly, at Lake Harrow. Elena's lips trembled. That's not possible, she whispered. Reyes asked, how did Milo's shoe get there? Elena shook her head, frantic. I don't know. He must have taken them there. The stranger? Reyes asked. Elena nodded. Reyes's voice stayed calm. Elena, we have footage of your car leaving Briar Glen the night your family disappeared. Elena froze. You were alone in the car, he continued. We've watched it carefully. Elena's mouth opened, then closed. Her jaw worked as if she was trying to swallow a stone. Reyes didn't pounce. I want to find your children, he said. I want to bring them home. But the story you've told doesn't match what we're finding. Elena stared at the table. You think, she whispered, you think I did something? Reyes didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He said, I think you know more than you've said. Silence settled. Elena's breathing became uneven. Reyes waited. Because confession is rarely an explosion. More often, it's a slow leak. Eleanor lifted her gaze. "Do you know what it's like," she asked, voice cracking, "to wake up and realize you're not a person anymore?" And once the door opened, the words kept coming. "You're a schedule," she said. "A list. Snacks and diapers and school emails. Everyone tells you it's beautiful. Everyone tells you you should be grateful." Her mouth twisted. "And if you say you're not happy, people look at you like you're broken." Reyes let her speak. "I used to paint," she whispered. "I used to travel. I used to feel like my life was mine." She swallowed. "Then I had kids, and everything got smaller. My name disappeared. I was just Mom." Reyes's voice stayed soft. "Elena, where are they?" Elena flinched. No words came. Reyes said gently, "We can't help them if you don't tell us." Elena squeezed her eyes shut. A tear slipped down her cheek, then another, and then I wanted to start over. The air changed, not with drama, with weight. Reyes felt it settle. "What do you mean?" he asked quietly. "I couldn't do it anymore," Elena whispered. "I couldn't be that person." Reyes kept his tone steady. "Tell me what happened." Elena's voice turned hollow. "I didn't want to be a mother," she said. "I didn't want to be a wife. I didn't want any of it." Reyes did not ask how. He did not ask for methods. He asked the only question that mattered: where are they? Elena inhaled, shaking. Then she gave a location, off a service road near Lake Harrow, a place no one had searched because everyone had believed her first story. Reyes stood immediately and signaled the officers outside. The room filled with radios and footsteps. Elena sat still, staring at the table, like the confession emptied her. The search at Lake Harrow. The search team arrived before dusk. The spot was remote. Brush, mud, shoreline that felt forgotten. Reyes watched divers prepare. He watched flashlights cut across the water as the sky darkened. Hours passed. A radio crackled. A diver had found something. Reyes's chest tightened. He didn't let his face change. But inside, something sank. Because hope, after a certain point, becomes self-deception. The recovery was handled with care and dignity. And when it was confirmed, when the worst became factual, Reyes felt the familiar anger. Not loud, quiet, the kind that sits in your ribs. Because the dead deserve truth, and the living deserve answers, even when answers are ugly. The final interrogation, the why. Back in the interview room, Elena sat across from Reyes again. Her posture was different now. No performance, no clinging to victimhood, just exhaustion. Reyes placed a recorder on the table. "Is it okay if we record?" he asked. Elena nodded. Reyes spoke gently. "Tell me why," he said. Elena stared down at her hands for a long time. Then she whispered, "I hated my life." The words sounded shocking because people aren't supposed to say them. Not mothers, not wives, not in towns with painted mailboxes. But Elena said it like she'd been holding it in her throat for years. "I hated waking up," she continued. "I hated the noise. I hated being needed every second. I hated that nothing was mine." She swallowed, and Noah kept saying it would get better. Her mouth twisted. He kept saying, "This is what we wanted." Elena's eyes narrowed. "But I didn't want it." Reyes's voice stayed calm. "And Milo and Sophie?" he asked gently. Elena flinched. "I loved them," she said quickly, then paused as if the word didn't fit anymore. I loved them," she repeated. But loving them didn't make me want to be here. Her breath trembled. I felt trapped. I felt like I died, and no one noticed. I felt like the only way to be alive again was to erase it. Reyes said nothing. There are no comforting words for that. Elena's eyes filled. I thought if I left, everyone would hate me, she whispered. They'd call me selfish, a monster. She laughed once, small, bitter. So I told myself, if they weren't there, it wouldn't matter what they thought. Reyes looked at her. It does matter, he said softly. Elena's shoulders shook. I wanted to start fresh, she whispered. I wanted to be someone else, somewhere else. I wanted to wake up and only have to think about myself. Reyes asked about her injuries. Elena admitted she wanted to look like a victim. She wanted sympathy. She wanted police chasing a stranger. I practiced the story, she whispered. I needed it to sound real. Reyes exhaled slowly. Some lies last because they are built from something true. Elena had been unhappy, resentful, desperate to escape. Those emotions were real. They were simply welded to something unforgivable. The town after. Briar Glen didn't know how to hold what happened. People wanted a simple box. Monster, evil, crazy. Simple boxes make the world feel safe. But the truth was more complicated, and that made it frightening. Eleanor had been the tired mum in the grocery store, the quiet woman at the park, the person people waved to without thinking. She had been normal, and that's why it shattered the town. There were memorials, candlelight vigils, small shoes placed on the school steps. People said Milo and Sophie's names softly, like prayers. Noah's parents sat with faces that looked carved from stone. Reyes didn't take satisfaction in the arrest. He never did. Cases like this don't end with victory. They end with accounting, with truth, with the world being forced to look at what it doesn't want to see. Bedtime ending. Now, as the rain continues softly, let your shoulders unclench, because this story is heavy. And bedtime stories, even dark ones, aren't meant to sit on your chest all night. So, we'll let the ending be quiet. Detective Reyes went home after the final paperwork. He sat in his kitchen, with the lights dimmed. He listened to the hum of his refrigerator, the same soft sound the Rowan house made when everyone was gone. He thought about how easily people assume they know what's happening behind closed doors. He thought about how communities can miss slow suffering because it doesn't scream. And he thought about the difference between feeling trapped and choosing violence, because being unhappy is human, but harming others to escape is a choice, a devastating one. Reyes didn't romanticize it. He didn't turn it into poetry. He just let it be what it was, a tragedy, a broken family, a lesson in how silence can hide storms. And then Reyes did what he always did after cases like this. He washed his hands, not because soap can remove memory, but because rituals remind you that time still moves, that tomorrow still arrives, and that somewhere, in some house, a porch light is turning on right now, and a family is safe inside, unaware of how lucky that is. So if your mind feels restless, return to your breath. In, slow. Out, slower. Let the room hold you. Let the rain do its gentle work. And remember, this story is fiction. You are here. You are safe in this moment. Good night.